DOTE.
Welcome to the tutorial on how to use the version control, which we're calling checkpoints and auto backups. So we have two different systems. This is going to be the basic introduction to this, and then we have a more advanced tutorial for how to use the full functionality of both of those methods. And here you see in DOTE, we've opened DOTE, and we have the Lego demo project and a Jeffersonian transcript, and then we have checkpoints and auto backups here at the top. And if we click on those, it will open those, we have the Jefferson free demo with errors. Means that we do have some checkpoint history that we can look at. So if I open checkpoints, you'll see here an archive of some checkpoints that have been made earlier. But this will not be available if you haven't installed Git. Git is free open source software. It's used by 90% of software development in the world today. So it's very safe and secure, and you need to install that to be able to use the basic functionality of checkpoints. If we look in auto backups, you'll see we have auto backup history, but to use some of that functionality too, you'll also need to have Git. Now the issue is when you open checkpoints on the Mac OS system, it will automatically ask you, do you want to install Git? And you just say yes, and it will do that for you. But on Windows systems, then you have to do that manually, and there's nothing we can do about that at the moment. So what you need to do, if I just go back to here and then I just open up the browser, then you'll see here, this is our help guide, how to download and install DOTE. So this is how to do the basic install, but if you go down, you'll see installing other open source packages, and Git is one of those if you want to use the full functionality of checkpoints and also to view auto backups correctly. So if we go here to see checkpoints, setting up checkpoints and auto backups on this web page, then you'll see it gives you some idea of what to do. And for Windows, you need to download and then install. For Mac, all you need to do usually is just open up checkpoints and it will ask you, and then you just continue. If it doesn't do that, then you're going to have to do it manually, and there are some instructions here how to do that. There could be some problems with Git and checkpoint troubleshooting, but that's something for the advanced tutorial. So if you click on download here, then you'll see download for Windows, and you need to download the build for either your 32-bit gigabit bit Git or 64-bit. More systems nowadays are 64-bit. Download that one, install it. That will give you the latest one, and that's all you need to do. Install it and just say yes to all of the default assumptions, options that come up. And there's quite a few options that come up. For Mac, there's no options. It will just install. So just say yes to all of those, and then it will work. So that's setting up Git. And if you do that, let's go back to DOTE. Then when you open checkpoints, you will see an archive, if there is any archive, and the same for auto backups. You'll be able to peek at these. So let's just take a look at checkpoints. First, let's look at auto backups, because this is a basic backup. What it does is for your transcript, if you make some changes and you haven't saved, every 5 minutes or so, depending on what you set in the settings, it will make a backup for you, and it will have a history of all those backups. So if we just go to settings, you'll see at the very top, create an automatic backup every X minutes, and we have it set here for 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, if there are changes that haven't been saved, it will make a backup. If you've not made any changes, it won't make a backup. And if you have made changes but saved them, it will not make a backup. So the idea is, it will make one backup for you, but not make further backups, because further backups will mean that you're having the same thing being backed up again and again. So it will not have redundancy in the backups. And those are backups, meaning they are stored separately. They allow us to recover the transcript as it was at the time of that backup was made, and this is done automatically. So you can see here 19 minutes ago, 28 minutes ago, 6 days ago, 10 days ago. And there's also a retention strategy, which is usually set as one particular strategy. We'll go into that in the advanced tutorial about how these individual ones work. So let's go to checkpoints. As you can see, we do have a number of checkpoints here. There's also been some change, so it's not been recorded yet, it's not been saved, and it's not been entered as a checkpoint yet. So that's something to do if you've made some change before and saved it or not saved it, then you need to make a checkpoint. When you make a checkpoint, it does not automatically save. So saving is a manual thing that you need to choose, and Control S or File Save Transcript will save the current state of the transcript. But making a checkpoint is a separate matter, and this means you can have a sort of separate control of different versions which are semantically significant for you. And here you see I've given names earlier to the changes that have been made to the transcript. And you can take a look at those just by clicking on them, and you'll get an idea of what a change is made, and you can make a checkpoint. So we're just going to do that in this basic one. Take a look at a checkpoint, create a checkpoint, and in the advanced tutorial we'll take a look at peaking and resetting and restoring checkpoints and auto backups. So let's go back to the transcript. So let's say, for example, here at line 22, when she arrives at the table, we want an extra comment here. So if I now add with a tab, and then I add the comment P2, and now we could say moves towards the covered object. And then of course the next part will be that she lifts the cover and visually inspects, and that takes some time. So moves towards the covered object. Let's say that we've added that. And now if we go to checkpoints, that change, you can see here, this is the transcript, that change we could actually create a checkpoint for. So add new comment, and the usual language is in the indicative imperative form, doing something, add, change, edit, adjust. So add new comment, and then the line number is line 23. So let's say at line 23. So we could say create checkpoint, and if we do that, now a few seconds ago we added this checkpoint. And that means previous lines, if we go back to this one 5 months ago, isolated overlap line, I can click that, and then we'll see what it looked like at that state, which will be without that. And I can just take a look. This is therefore the history of changes which have been manually created with a message. And the idea is to create a short message. It could be 1 line or 2 lines, but not, it's not going to be a long set of lines. The idea is to make small granularity, small changes that you make, keep making new checkpoints. And that means you have a history of these ones here. It's a spoiler alert. These are errors that have been introduced into the transcript. So if I click on these, you'll actually see what the error is. And this is the idea, is to recover these and take a look to see if you've, and here are the errors or warnings that these are actually making. So every one of these is one small error or warning that's been created. For example, if I say missing speaker ID and I click on that, then that's, well, you can't see the line here, but you have to display changes between versions. This is not available if you haven't got the DOTE Pro version. So if you have the DOTE Pro version, you can turn that on, and then it will see, there's a marking here, and here's the change, and it shows you the difference between the two versions. And this was to create an error. The speaker for this in Danish was actually deleted, and that gives this error, speaker name missing. So you can see that's a problem for the transcript, because that's introduced a problem, and we're currently looking at that in the past when that particular error was introduced. Of course, that's a deliberate act. And if we go to this speaker ID, then let's just turn it on again so we can see that was at line 61. So this is what you'll see in the free version. If we go to line 61, there we can see there's the error. it was introduced that the P1 was removed here, and so we don't have a speaker ID identification for who says this. So what we'll do, if we'll leave checkpoint mode, we'll return to the current transcript, which is with adding this new comment at line 23, and there we are, there's the comment. If we had looked also, well, missing speaker ID, that would not have been there, that comment, and nor the other changes that were made afterwards. So this is an archive of the history of changes made to the transcript leading up to the current one. The same for auto backups. So if we go to auto backups, you'll see auto backups has a set of changes. Notice it made this a few seconds ago. So there was a change that I had done which is not saved yet, and so it has logged that. And it also does logging for 10 days ago, 6 days ago, according to the retention strategy or policy that I've chosen. Okay, so that's the basics for looking at history, and I could peek at these ones as well, which I won't do in this. We'll do that in the advanced tutorial, and that means I have a record of all the changes, both auto backupped as well as manual checkpoints, logging the history, and that's going to be useful for all sorts of purposes. For example, it gives me as a transcriber some sort of history of the small changes I've made, so I can see what did I actually change and when. It can also be you share with somebody else, and then they make a set of revisions and changes, and then you'll see if they do checkpoints. You'll see a history of their changes as they see them, and you can peek at those to see what they actually changed. It can be very useful for pedagogical purposes with students learning how to transcribe, adding sets of comments on their transcript, and then seeing how they made those changes and then correcting them. So it's very useful for also just simply for recovering, given that a set of changes were made which you think are now redundant and should be undone. Then you can quickly go back with an auto backup to a state yesterday, for example, or because DOTE crashed, so you've got a record of the last 5 minutes of changes which you forgot to save. Alright, that's all we'll do for now, and take a look at the advanced tutorial to see some more sophisticated ways of dealing with checkpoints and auto backups and resetting and restoring them.